Chapter 3. He woke to the smell of fresh air and the cold frost of winter morning covering his body. He lay alone in the woods not far from the family cave, remembering how he fell on that spot, and decided to stay there, not choosing warmth. He needed to feel like a werewolf, one that wasn't privileged to live in a house. He didn't want the pretense of sleeping in a cave either, where it was as comfortable as his family's ranch. It had been cold that night, but now the sun with its orange and yellow flurry of color in the sky fell on Damon. His eyes opened, and his mind stopped thinking about his quarrel with Tracker and his father's harsh words. He needed to hunt to feed himself. He needed to cut wood to warm himself in the cave. Everyone had been busy. Wilder and Adrian making more pups for the pack. Lycell worries about Adrian loving him, and whether or not Tracker was the father to Thorn's pups. Hunter with an eerie feeling that he had another son somewhere. No one took the time to attend to the cave. Damon didn't mind sleeping out in the open, but now the weather had changed, and the cold of winter had crept up on him like a lion after a gazelle. He stood up and breathed in the fresh chill of the air. Where would he begin? Hunt for food. Fresh meat. Water. He had all he needed in the stream and the bottled water in the cave. There he would get fresh fish and smoke the meat and fish for the winter months. Fresh meat. A werewolf couldn't maintain his strength without fresh red meat. That's where he would start. He set out like a lone wolf without a pack. Entering the thick of the forest, among the trees, no clearing for him. His hunt would be with the large animals of the forest. A buck or elk, heaven forbid a moose. His father warned him against a moose, but there at his feet down below were the tracks of a large moose. He bent to get a better look. He raised his head to get a whiff of the animal's scent. There was nothing wrong with his nose. It was a moose all right. Following the scent, for hours near a half-frozen lake with a bank of snow within a clearing, stood the largest moose he had seen as an adult werewolf. The antlers of this beautiful creature span horizontal almost 6 feet. Damon stood gazing at the magnificence of the animal when the moose caught hold of his scent, but it wasn't Damon's scent that alarmed him. In the moose's direction trotted another moose of equal dimensions, and before Damon could shift, the black moose lowered his head and rammed into the brown moose Damon had hunted for his lunch. The black moose quickly turned and rushed wild, and with driven aim, tore into the upper body of the brown elk, toppling him over. But the brown moose managed to get to his feet, turn and entangle his large antlers with the black moose taking him to the ground. They rolled over and over with their antlers locked together, falling into the river, and because of the freezing cold or the river, both animals scurried back on shore shivering with unlocked antlers, angry, and ready to begin their fight to the death. Eventually rising and falling into the freezing river again and again, and this time only one animal emerged. The strongest and ruthless of the two. When Damon glanced across the river, he saw a cow waiting patiently. The two bulls were fighting over her. It was a fierce fight, and Damon couldn't tear himself away from the spectacle of two large male animals fighting during mating season. Yes, it was mating season, and then it dawned on him what had occurred between he and Tracker. If his father hadn't intervened, he and Tracker would have come to blows to mate with Sadia, and it would be an ugly scene like the one he had witnessed. Now he completely understood what his father and uncles had tried to get across. That there is a nature within them that is carnal and vicious because they are both human and werewolf, and the human part had to dominate the animal part for them to survive and not tear the family apart. Damon watched as the dominate bull moose gored the smaller moose to death, all because he needed to mate. It is the law of animals to mate with the most desirable and fertile of females, Lycell had said to all his sons. Make sure you choose the right one and not the one your brother or brothers have chosen to mate with. There are more females than males in this world. You will find another one. One that will love you and want you. Tracker took it to heart. He understood he could find many females to be his mate, as he desired. Damon cursed himself for being attracted to that one. It had happened to Hunter, but Hunter got over his first love and found another. Would Damon be so lucky? After the dominant moose pulled himself from the cold water to saunter away feeling superior, Damon didn't have the inclination to kill it. It had proven itself as the most dominant and would breed with the most desirable female, and one day Damon would meet the offspring of this wonderful creature, Damon thought. However, after seeing a long battle for superiority, the moose had been shaken and weakened. Damon could have easily overtaken him, but out of respect for another animal, he let him go and took the smaller moose's body and fresh killed meat for his own. On his way back through the forest, he realized he had never been that far north before. He didn't realize how far he had traveled to find the bull, and how long the fight had taken. His mind had been on Sadia, and why he had broken his father's rules. His keen eyes spotted a run-down cabin in the middle of a forest. It didn't look like anyone lived in it for some time. The cabin door swung to and fro on one hinge as the wind sent it back and forward, making a noise that echoed through the valley it sat in. Most of the paint had dried and peeled off the house. The house could have been painted white, but it was hard to tell. The wind, rain, and snow had worn down the house like a skinned animal, leaving only the frame, which could collapse at any time. Stepping on the rotted porch with Damon angling through the door, into the house, he glanced around and there were pictures of a man and a woman and a baby. Much like some of his pictures he had seen of him and his 5 brothers. But this was a picture of a man with a beard and a woman smiling broadly, holding a small girl. The girl with dark ringlets like her father's curly thick hair. And both with dark eyes. The mother with pale blonde hair and light eyes. But they all looked happy. He wondered what had become of them. They seemed so happy in the pictures, like he once felt with his family and pack. He moved on through the house and found a bedroom and a separate small room. In the room the remnants of a bassinet and all the things a girl child would cling to, including a doll, but the doll had been left behind. Turning to walk out, his sharp eyes spotted something behind the door. The skeletal bones of 2 people. The man lying on top of the woman, as if trying to shield her from the bullet that entered his back. It had to be them. The family in the picture, but where were the remains of the little girl? As he examined further, it appeared that the skeletal remains of the man resembled that of a werewolf. They had a distinct skeleton, the bones larger in the hip and thigh and pelvis. He had seen it before when he was young, and when the humans raided towns that were once inhabited by werewolf families. Most of these towns the men were werewolves and the females were human. Lycell had told them of this, and to be weary or humans because they didn't like that their women were marrying werewolves, and their excuse to raid towns and kill everyone was because the werewolves stole the young women out of their beds at night. And once the women were taken, the werewolves bit them, and turned them into werewolves too, and that's why the entire family had to be destroyed. The humans convinced others that this had to be done for the good of mankind. So men went around searching places they thought werewolves sought refuge, like the middle of forests, where they slaughtered many families. Many folklore of werewolves were passed among humans. Some of the old men knew the truth. Werewolves were no more harmful than some of the humans who lived in the forest. Everyone once lived in harmony, but some of the younger humans refused to acknowledge it. They would prefer to pass a false rumor that there were werewolves who stole women in the night. It was then bands of vigilantes would take it on their own to go around killing werewolves. The humans resented the werewolves because of their obvious sexual abilities and their wealth. In the isolated areas of the Northwest where there were few people and fewer women when women went missing, it was to go with the werewolves where they lived happily and comfortable. Damon remembered Lycell discussing his father Harper and his mother Emily. There were no werefemales within 1,000 miles, and because Harper was raised by a human mother, this was what he knew and this is what he desired. And when he put an advertisement in the San Francisco papers, Emily answered his ad. And so began the town of Samsaville. Together, Harper and his wife created a haven for werewolves and humans who wanted to live under the werewolves' laws. By writing laws and getting humans to enforce them, Harper prevented some of the werewolves from declaring war on the humans to which the werewolves couldn't win. To survive, werewolves had to blend in with the humans. The humans were never to know or suspect that there were werewolves among them until they could bring all the werewolves together and build their packs. That was a dream of Lycell's father, which would never come to fruition because of a plague that swept through the werewolves' towns, making the were-females barren, unable to reproduce. It was then Harper built the town of Samsaville for their sons and their children. He amassed a fortune to see that they would survive. And survive they did, and now they are the largest and most powerful werewolf family in all of the Americas, and Damon has threatened the strength of the pack by raising his hand against his brother, causing a division that may take years to mend.